أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف خلق الله محمد وآله محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. So this topic I would say is a contentious topic in the sense that in today's society, talking about rights in general and talking about women's rights in particular is very difficult. It's treading on shallow water. People become either defensive or offensive. A lot of people actually are not able to grasp onto certain realities, especially when it comes to the scriptural sides of understanding rights and women rights in particular. And then to make the drama even worse, we know that Islam and the Islamic perspective of women's rights is comprehended on a different level altogether, and of course makes it even more difficult to deal with. And so when we're treading on shallow water, when we're trying to make sure that we don't offend anyone in that sense, at the same time, we have an obligation of conveying the true teachings of our religion, even though it could be a very dark time in the sense that, al-qabidu ala dinihi kal-qabid ala jamra, someone who's trying to adhere to their religion is like holding onto a burning coal, as Imam Sadiq alayhi salam has said. And so in these troubling times where there's so much freedom, so much, if we could say, secularism, liberation of rights, pushing towards new progressive understandings of gender role and things like that, all of a sudden you want to be the traditional Muslim who wants to participate in a correct understanding of religion and Islam and things like that. So how are you going to be able to do that? How can you combine between all of these things? It's not easy. Now, with this introduction, when it does come to Islam and rights, how are we able to stick to the religious understanding of things and at the same time be able to allow our understanding to be taken in a positive way by someone outside of Islam? Even in today's society, Muslims themselves are still pretty much struggling when it comes to certain things to do with, Islamic understanding of things and whatnot. So let's have a look at this first particular topic. And what we can see is the foundation, and we've spoken about this a few times before. And by the way, when it comes to Islam and women's rights, this isn't going to be our only one and only session. We're going to have a few sessions that we're going to try to tackle it from just different dimensions, from the spousal dimension, from the hijab side, from the social side, from the Quranic perspective, etc., etc. Okay, so what's the foundation? What is the basis for all of this? We understand that in Islam, in our religion, looking at the Holy Quran, we know that there is an emphasis on equality. Now, how are we able to make that claim very, very clear? We are able to make that claim by seeing that there are many verses in the Holy Quran that speak about equality, that speak about musawat bayn al-rajuli wal-mar'a, that speak about equity and fairness between the male and between the female. So I think we spoke about this in the previous session. When it comes to equality and things like that, there's a lot that has been mentioned. Yes, the Quran says وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى, that the male is not like a female. Yes, as far as the physiology is concerned, as far as the anatomy is concerned, as far as a lot of other things are concerned, and we don't shy away from that. And even if there is someone who's going to come around and say, no, you've got 25, 30, 40, 50, 100 different genders, and gender is just a social construction and whatnot, all these other things. But, looking at it in the correct kind of way, staying away from random cases, staying away from abnormalities, looking at the normal kind of terminology that is used, we're able to understand it in this particular way. Now, please look this up, that prior to the First World War, and even in the 16th and 17th century, and until then, there was these ongoing debates as to whether a woman was a human being, as to whether a woman had a soul, as to whether, and even if you look up the constitution in many of these Western countries, they didn't regard a woman to be a person's who had individual rights under the constitution, under the law. Now, do we have some kind of obsession of always wanting to compare Islam with previous civilizations, with previous religions? Do we want to always compare Islam with how people were before? Why don't we compare Islam with how people are today, in today's society, at this particular moment of time? We're able to do that. But when you accuse Islam of being archaic, when you accuse Islam to discriminate against women, and you are witch hunting Islam, and you are targeting Islam and Islam only, not only as far as today's Muslim society is concerned, but Islam as a religion as a whole, and saying that the problem is Islam as a religion, not today's Muslim, then of course we're going to have to say, okay, well, let's compare this religion with what you have as far as your heritage, as far as your past, as far as your religion, as far as your this, as far as your that is concerned. It doesn't mean that we're running away or evading the fact of how we're able to compare Islam or Muslim society with others in today's world, nor are we shying away from the discrimination against women in Muslim society, unfortunately. The shameful things that women have to undergo in today's society, unfortunately. And no one is happy with that. We all condemn that. Our ulama condemn that. Activists condemn that. Religion itself condemns that. When you say, oh, well, there's this very bad practice in Muslim society that girls are forced into marriage. Yeah, and why are you saying that? Why are you telling me that? Islam condemns that. Islam says that if she's forced into marriage, it's not marriage, it's zina, wal-'iyadhu billah. So there's no need for you to be, addressing this issue with me as a Muslim, who I've already condemned that before you even came to know about it. So what is it that you have a problem with? That Islam doesn't see women on the same level as men? You're absolutely wrong. You're absolutely misinformed. As far as the insani side, as far as the akhlaqi side, as far as the ibadah side, as far as the involvement side, as far as the responsibility, as far as the rituals, as far as the sharaf and nobility, all of them, male and female, have equal opportunity in being involved in any and all of these things. Yes, on the social side, there are certain, if we could say, regulations, not restrictions, regulations. There's a difference between referring to a woman freely mixing with a man, or a man freely mixing with women, as it being restriction, or looking at it as a way of regulation. And that's what Islam focuses on. That's what Islam emphasizes on. And that's why the ayah in the Holy Quran that you can see in front of you, it says, Man amila salihan, someone who does a righteous deeds, min dhakarin, aw untha, whether you are a male or a female, wa huwa mu'min, and you are a believer, wa huwa mu'min. See, again, remember when we spoke about this whole way of how the Quran addresses people? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, oh you who believe. Is it referring to men only or women only? When we're going to be talking about patriarchy, we'll mention this as well, that people have got it really, really wrong. They've misconstrued things, unfortunately, in some cases, even intentionally. Why? So they can badmouth Islam, so they can attack our religion, so they can say to us, yes, you're the backward person, we're the progressive, you need to wake up to yourself, you need to stop discriminating against women, you need to do this, you need to do that. Why? If you lack the understanding, if you lack the tools, if you've misconstrued something because of a bad experience or some bad media report, then that's your fault. It's not anyone else's fault. And so that's why this wonderful ayah here, it says, وَهُوَ مُؤْمِن, and he is a believer. No, it doesn't say he as in the male gender only. وَهُوَ مُؤْمِن, meaning مَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا, someone who is righteous, من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فلنحيينه حياة طيبة. We will give them a happy life, a pure life, a good life, right? So the principle, the foundation that we work on is equality. That's the foundation that you work on. Now, how about the furu'? How about the details? How about this? How about that? This is where the case is different. It's like prescribing medicine. When you prescribe medication to someone, you say, this medication is good for usage. And then you have a clause and you say it might not be good for pregnant women. It might not be good for children under the age of 14. It might not be good for someone who has a heart condition. And all these other examples that we are able to give. So where is the inequality? We believe that the inequality is in the unfortunate application or the negative cultural mindsets that some people might have. And that's very damaging and dangerous and bad. And unfortunately, there's nothing that we are able to do with that. Now, how about in the case of for example, other real issues that people are talking about when it comes to inequality? Yes, we understand that there are really bad inequalities that are happening in today's Muslim society, which Muslims themselves are not happy with. Oppression towards women, discrimination against women, abuse of women, misuse of ahkam and rulings and authority and all these other problems that we have all around the world. But where don't we have this problem? And who's talking? You know, you're mentioning this, for example, and you're living in a country where every 20 seconds there's a rape, for example, or there's this, or there's sex trafficking, or there's that, or there's this, all these big scandals, and about truly about inequality. Because when we talk about equality, we're not only talking about equality as far as money and finance is concerned, or as far as work opportunity is concerned. We talk about equality on all levels of a person's life: spiritual, individual, political, social, moral, etc., etc. So where is the inequality? Well, number one, there is the problem of inheritance. Why? Well, because the Quran says, وَلِلذَّكَرِ مِثْلُ حَظِّ الْأُنْثَيَيْنِ, that a woman has half a portion of a man. So for every one man, two women will get that same portion. And of course, this is unfair. Why is it that a woman is getting this much and a man is getting that much? First of all, always remember, we need to always remember the diversity of ahkam and rulings and laws when it comes to our religion, Islam. And the Quran hasn't spoken about these in detail. The Quran hasn't spoken about how many rak'ahs you pray. The Quran hasn't spoken about the different divisions of irth. If you have a, if you pass away, what's the law if your parents are alive, if your parents are not alive, if you have a half brother, if you have a step brother, if you have children, if your wife is alive, if you have this kind of situation, if you have an uncle, if you this, if you that, what are the rulings here? There's different rulings for each and every scenario. In each and every tabaqa, there are certain ahkam. So I'm not going to be talking in detail about this, but it's a very interesting topic to get into, extremely interesting. And that's when you'll really appreciate Islam. Unfortunately, some Muslim men and women, you know what they say? I don't want to divide my inheritance based on Islam because Islam is discriminatory. I'd rather do it the civil way, according to civil law, not according to Islamic law. Well, you don't even know what the division is as far as the Islamic inheritance is concerned. And how could Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala discriminate against a woman just because she is a woman? There are some cases where a male will get more than a female in the household when it comes to inheritance. There are also some cases where a female will get more than a male. Why is it that men aren't jumping up and saying, well, that's unfair? Just because of this ayah? But this ayah is only one of hundreds and hundreds of different cases when it comes to the ahkam. And let's say, for example, that a woman who receives half of the portion of her sibling, of a male, in one certain scenario in inheritance, that male, that money is not his and his alone. Whereas what the female inherits, that money is her money and hers alone. She has no financial responsibility towards anyone, no financial obligation towards anyone. She doesn't need to be paying anyone any nafaqah. She doesn't need to be paying anyone any blood money or diya or anything else. So what she earns is hers and hers only. As for the male, what he earns is for him and those who are dependent on him. Not financially dependent, not only financially dependent, but also socially dependent as his family. So he has a responsibility towards his other siblings. He has a responsibility towards his parents, financial responsibility. He has a responsibility towards his wife. He has a financial responsibility towards his children. So let's say he gets $2,000 inheritance. In one case, as I said, sometimes a male gets more than a female. A lot of times, not sometimes, a lot of times a female gets equal or more than the male, depending on where she is in the inheritance. But if he gets $1,000, $2,000, right? She gets $1,000. She pockets the $1,000, right? He isn't going to be able to pocket the $2,000. Why? Because he has wajibat, financial wajibat that he needs to follow and give. Don't talk to me about today's society, about today's world, and saying, well, women now are, you know, getting an income on their own. They're also the breadwinners. They're also bringing back and paying bills and paying mortgage and doing this and doing that. Absolutely fine. Is it their religious obligation to do any of these things? No, not at all. If it comes from out of her goodwill, wonderful. If she's doing it out of tibatu nafsiha, absolutely wonderful. But does she have any wajib obligation towards doing any of these things? The answer is no. So with inheritance, with blood money, there is no inequality. So, okay, if you kill a male, there's this amount of money. If you kill a female, there's this amount of money. Let's say if we bring the male back down, when you're killing a female, for example, when a female is killed and a diya is paid because of that female being killed, right? Qatlu amd, because of that female being killed, or for example, harmed in some particular way and a diya needs to be paid, right? That money is going to go towards, you know, her, whatever it is that she had allocated or her family allocates it for. That will be used for that particular case, right? So there won't be any financial loss with the loss of that marhuma female. With the male, there's going to be financial loss. Now, are you going to say, well, you know, that doesn't really make sense because, you know, there are women who are the breadwinners who do bring money and who do have an income and who do have other people who are dependent on her financially. This is where the wonder, the beauty of Shi'i ijtihad is very, very important. Where nowadays the dynamics of Shia jurisprudence, which is always evolving, and that's why A'imatu Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam opened the door of ijtihad. Ahlul Sunnah with the four madhahib closed the door of ijtihads. Ahlul Bayt opened the door of ijtihads, and that's why there is that flexibility. And ulama, for example, mujtahideen, maraji', they say, excuse me, nowadays women are generating an income, so no, their diya isn't half of a male. Because of that, their diya should be equal to that of a male. So this is where, you know, you probably say, okay, well, maybe once upon a time this, but now there's that. That's where we understand the dynamics of fiqh, if you know what I'm talking about. How about polygamy? Inshallah, we'll talk about that in detail. Is that really unfair? You know, that one man can have more than one wife, but one woman cannot have anything more than just one man. Right? Covering up and hijab. How about the consent of your husband? Right? A lot of people say this all the time. Why is it that Islam is trying to restrict the woman and kind of like turn her into a slave, and she needs permission from her husband anytime she leaves the house? Who said that? Who said that? If someone is married to a man who unfortunately has turned into a dictator, then why are you blaming that on Islam? If he's misusing the ahkam, he's misinterpreting the ahkam, why are you blaming on Islam? Which man in their sound mind is going to be restricting and limiting his wife and monitoring her and knowing, you know, or controlling her as far as when she's able to see her family, when she's this or when she's that? Why would that happen? Ijtihad, what ijtihad means? The faqih, a person who reaches that level of faqaha, the level of ijtihad, where they are able to deduce fatwas, they are able to present a verdict and with the dynamics of the fiqh. How about legal rights? Does religious rights conflict with legal rights? The answer is sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Religious law, there's a conflict with civil law. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. For example, as far as family affairs are concerned, you're able to pursue things religiously, you're also able to pursue things legally as far as the law is concerned. But always remember that when it comes to religious laws and religious rights, and even civil law and civil rights, there's always going to be the gender issue having a role in the understanding of how a certain circumstance or a certain case may be. Again, this is all to do with looking at the dynamics of ijtihad and the changing of fatwas and things like that, which alhamdulillah is an important part of al-madhab al-Shi'i. And look at this wonderful ayah in the Holy Quran where it says, again, to reiterate this important point of equality, of fairness, of one being with the other, within the restrictions, within the what we called regulations. We're not going to play dumb and say that no, a woman is like a man, a woman should be equal to a man. If a man is able to do this, then a woman is able to do this. If a man is able to wear shorts in public, then a woman is able to reveal and show as much skin as she wants to. It's completely up. No, we're not going to downsize our realistic understanding of these kind of roles, because the main issue here is preserving the entity of a family, moral, social, religious emphasis on the structure of a family. That if we were to focus on this, the nucleus family in this particular way, and families make up a society. When you focus on the family and on the well-being of a family and avoid things that will make the family dysfunctional, that will make the family fall apart, then of course that means that you're going to have to follow the ahkam and the shara. المؤمنون والمؤمنات بعضهم أولياء بعض يأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر. What a beautiful ayah. المؤمنون والمؤمنات بعضهم أولياء بعض. Subhanallah. Okay, how about patriarchy? And we've spoken about this. A lot of people say, you know, patriarchy this and patriarchy that. We're sick of your patriarchy. Where, what was that word that that some people use? These social justice warriors. We're sick of your mansplaining. We're sick of your mansplaining. It's a big problem. If you're a male and you talk, let's say you're mansplaining. If you're a female and you talk about these things, they say, yeah, she's too emotional. Who explains it? Why is it that the more you want to liberate women, the more you have to talk about sexualizing them, not desexualizing them, sexualizing them. Because we're going to be talking about this when we speak about feminism, but let me just hint to it now. Look it up yourself. These women, some of these women, sorry, who demand equality, gender equality, the first thing that they do, right, is they remove their clothes. The first thing that they do is they talk about the most intimate and most private of things. You know, there's these movements, I can't even use the words, right? But there's this march that they have every once in a while, and it's called a very, very rude word, march. And what are they demanding? Yeah, but they're demanding, oh, it's our body, we can do with it as we wish. Is that how you are opposing patriarchy? And then they say, okay, well, you know, God is a male, prophets are males, imams are males, ulama are males, and all these males are the ones that are dictating onto us what it is that we need to do, what it is that we need to say, what is no, absolutely not. God is beyond gender. Imam alayhim salam and the ma'sumin, the way they conducted themselves as ma'sumin is beyond gender. Irrespective of that, you've got Sayyidah Fatima to Zahra, you've got Sayyidah Zainab, you've got Sayyidah Khadija, you've got all of these wonderful personalities in early Islam. Irrespective of that, you've got contemporary women who are ulama, who are mujtahidat, right? And on top of that, you know, all of these cases of how the Quran speaks about elevating the status of women, not by looking at them as sex objects, but by looking at them on their human side. And that's why it's extremely, extremely important. And yes, we believe in participation. We believe in women's participation within the regulations of how a woman needs to be, of how a man needs to be. And we need to accommodate to that. You should have ambition, you should have a future, you should have education, you should have a profession, you should be involved in the parliament or a ministry or local council or media or this or that or this or that. You should be involved in these things and learning and that, but not at the cost of losing your family, not at the cost of fulfilling your religion, half of your religion in getting married, not at the cost of bringing into this world another human being and having a baby. And so we need to accommodate to these things. Why is it all of a sudden very, very shameful for a woman to be what, and they don't use this word anymore, but they used to use the word housewife, or now it's stay-at-home mum. Why is it so shameful? Fatima to Zahra alayhi salam was that. A lot of women who are ambitious, who are positive, who are active, who are educated, who are professional, who contribute in the best way to society are stay-at-home mums. That's the wonderful thing if she wants to be that. And we should encourage women to do that if they want to. But if she wants to work outside of the house, wonderful, very, very good. But society needs to accommodate to her needs. When she wants to have, for example, a leave for maternity leave, for example, she shouldn't be pressured by, well, you've only got 1 week after you deliver the baby to come back to work? How is she going to nurture the baby? How is she going to breastfeed the infant? How is she going to do this? How is she going to do that? And unfortunately, in today's society, people are not taking care of these things. So yes, we should be comparing before and after Islam, Jahiliyyah time, burying of babies alive, this and all these other things. We should be comparing Islam with other religions and Islam with other laws and other constitutions. But most importantly, even after we've made a comparison, we should always remember that Islam stands alone. That even if you see something to be misunderstood or something far from your comprehension, that doesn't mean that Islam's got it wrong. It means that you've got it wrong. Inshallah, we will continue to speak about this particular topic. And next week, inshallah, we'll be talking about spousal rights in Islam. Inshallah. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi tahirin.